Every mapper has a story to tell. For over 4 years, I spent countless days trying to create and release a Black Mesa map that I was happy with. I had come a long way since I started, but the levels I created seemed to be hindered by my own plans and ambitions getting out of control. By the summer of 2019, I was in a desperate situation. Every Black Mesa level I had made since Vengeance at Dusk was sitting unreleased on my computer, and I was now back at square one, out in the wilderness, looking for something to create. The summer of 2019 brought about a series of events that would change the trajectory of the journey I was on, which helped me to find success in the most unlikely of situations. This is my Black Mesa mapping journey. I have not spoken about creating maps for the multiplayer deathmatch game mode in Black Mesa, as I hadn't really tried to create one seriously before. I did spend a few days making one around December of 2015, but it was so small and insignificant I didn't even talk about it in the first episode of this series. Anyway, because I wasn't having much luck releasing single player levels, I decided to try and make a deathmatch map in July of 2019. This was the perfect opportunity to finish something, as you literally can't add another map onto the end of a deathmatch map. The idea I had for it contained the same airstrike feature as DM Crossfire. There would be a bunker in the middle of the map in which players could run in and start the airstrike every couple of minutes. When the airstrike was initiated, there would be a mad rush to the bunker where the players inside would be trying to survive each other's attacks, and the players outside would be trying to get in. The bunker would have doors that would slowly close, making it harder for the players to get in as time went on. The difference between my level and Crossfire is that my bunker would be a central position, opposed to being to the side of the main section. I got to work creating the level, blocking it out with dev textures, which was an approach I had seldom taken. Well, I would usually block out a room with dev textures, but immediately place textures on the surfaces that could be seen, whilst I would do a find and replace on the remaining dev textures to turn them into no-draw textures. Making the map design as ambiguous as possible helped me to quickly make changes to the layout. The bunker in the centre would have a satellite dish on top of it, and it would be the main Black Mesa communication centre. It had one entrance on the bottom floor and a bridge on the top floor connected to another building. There were also windows around the top floor, so a player could use the Talcani to jump up and enter the main communication room where the button to launch the airstrike was. The problem with having the bunker in the middle of the map is that a lot of buildings had to be made around it, and the player spawn points had to be closer to the bunker than in Crossfire, but I don't think that mattered too much, as I assumed that getting to the bunker would not always be that easy due to ongoing firefights. I'm not certain how long I spent creating the map. The first version was saved on the 8th of July, and the last was on the 17th of July 2019, so assuming these were the first and last days, then I spent just over a week on it. Wait, what? A week? When I think back to my time making this map, it feels like I spent at least a month on it. Maybe I worked on it for a few days longer, but everything in the final version I have was definitely the furthest I got. My plan was to finish the blockout and then get it tested on a server. I can't quite remember why I didn't do this exactly. Around this time of my life, I found myself doing things outside the world of computers and the internet. I think they call it real life. I can't remember. This meant I was not online as much as I had previously been in my free time. I was enjoying the warm summer while I could, and listening to lots of 80s music for some reason. I remember going to McDonald's to get ice cream many times and walking on a number of nature trails. I have to confess, this could have been one of the best parts of my life. Anyway, I guess if it had been raining as it usually does in Scotland, I might have finished the deathmatch map. As it stands, it was never tested and I never really went back and tried to finish it. It became another map that was added to my unfinished maps folder on my computer. For the rest of July, I was gallivanting around Scottish towns in the sun, eating cheap ice cream. That was until the 25th of July, when everything changed. In late July, there was a small incident that happened on the Steam Workshop in which an individual, who will remain nameless, was suspected of stealing from other maps on the workshop. The maps that had been stolen from were created by Jamaican Dave, a well-respected mapper in the Black Mesa community. The guy who did the stealing eventually took his map down after I called him out. Whilst this has nothing to do with my next Black Mesa project, I had been talking with Jamaican Dave about it, as well as the deathmatch map I had recently stopped working on. He had tried to create a single player map last summer that was designed to be part of a series of levels, but had given up towards the end of July. On Thursday the 25th of July 2019, he suggested to me that we should team up and work on upgrading and expanding a map that he had created in 2016 called Stalwart. Stalwart had been created as an unofficial entry for a mapping challenge on runthinkshootlive.com called Hardville, but had not yet been released on the Steam Workshop. Jamaican Dave said that he would work on improving the map and bring it up to a good standard, and he allowed me to create a completely new map that would be placed after the existing map. He gave me complete freedom to extend onto the end by as much or as little as I wanted. Wow, I couldn't believe I was actually getting a chance to work with a mapper who inspired me and whose levels I enjoyed playing. This was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity and I jumped at it. We set a deadline in which we would aim to get it finished, which was the end of August. This was 1 month for Jamaican Dave to extend his current map and for me to create a brand new level. The first BM Stalwart was made in 13 days, but Jamaican Dave had always wanted to extend it, so that is what he did. A new area was added to the south side of the map, which contained a new starting area in some kind of sewer system. We discussed what theme and setting the level I was making should have, and decided that it should not stray too far from that of the original Stalwart. The decision was made that the general environment would be based on the Half-Life chapter We've Got Hostiles. Whilst it was not the most exciting or advanced theme, it meant there was continuity between the two maps and it was not too complex. So, we each started mapping. I blocked my entire map out in dev textures because that is what I had been doing for the deathmatch map I previously spoke about. The premise I chose for the map was that you, as a player, would have to rescue 3 scientists that had been captured by the HECU and put in a cage. Wait, haven't we been here before? That's right, I wholesale ripped the idea out of the map I tried creating over a year earlier. The cage was made bigger to make it seem like it was a variation of the green crates in Black Mesa and used for storing legitimate things like other crates and not humans. Another thing I took from a previous map, or maps, was the trip mine room. First implemented into Flatline in 2017 and then the bridge map at the start of 2019, I was eager to get it in a released level. It's a shame trip mine rooms are a really unpopular feature in maps and a lot of people aren't fans of them. I won't go into much more detail about the rest of the content of my level as I created a developer commentary and put it on my YouTube channel when the map was released. I will, however, share a secret with you. I put a hidden room with a dark secret into my map. I don't think Jamaican Dave even knows about it, but someone did manage to find it after a couple of years. It probably bloated the size of the level, but I always like to hide little things like this in my maps. During development, we playtested each other's maps, providing feedback and making suggestions. It was a really productive month. I even went on holiday for a week during August, yet that didn't really impact the quality of the map or the speed of development. When I got back, it was full speed ahead until we found that we had both got our maps up to a standard that we were happy with. The map pack was named Stalwart XT, the XT signifying that it was the extended edition of the original Stalwart from 2016. After some final playtests and some fixes, the map was released on the Steam Workshop on the 31st of August 2019. We had actually done it. After both having difficulties over the summer creating our own levels, we joined forces and managed to complete a map pack for Black Mesa. Looking at my previous projects and then looking at Stalwart XT, it is clear why we were able to finish it. It helped that we already had a starting point with the original Stalwart. Having an already completed map helps to motivate you, as seen when I used Complex Office to go on and create Flatline. It's just a shame I never released it. In the case of Stalwart XT, because there were two of us, we both ensured the other person could not get carried away and start adding map after map. Another good thing about having two of us was that the deadline we set seemed more tangible. Setting deadlines by yourself sometimes works, as was the case with the bridge map I made in 2019, but they are much harder to stick to if there is no one else there to enforce them. As I mentioned, we were both able and willing to playtest the maps, so that meant there was always a fresh set of eyes to look over the other person's map. It was due to these factors that we were able to create Stalwart XT, and I have Jamaican Dave to thank for inviting me to join him in creating it. It felt like a great achievement to be finally releasing a single-player Black Mesa map pack. Upon release, the map pack was met with generally favourable reviews and comments. There were two main points in the pack which came under criticism. The first of which was the pipe jumping puzzle in the first map, and the second was the trip mine room in the second map. You remember, the one that I so desperately wanted to include? Yeah, well I guess I will steer clear of trip mines from now on. Another point of criticism was that there was too much visual clutter, and it is clear this was most prominent in my level. Compared to other Black Mesa maps being released from around the time, this is true. I think I went overboard in adding items to the map to make it look as detailed as possible, which in many ways made it harder to navigate and detracted from the gameplay. This is a lesson I have learned, and the criticism has been taken on board. I enjoyed the development and the release of Stalwart XT far more than my Half-Life 2 mod, Cosmonauts, which had been released about 3 months prior. I think back on Stalwart XT really fondly as a highly productive time in my life. I finally made something in Black Mesa that I was happy with. I was writing this video and I wondered how popular the map pack was. I was surprised to find it on the 9th page of the most popular mods of all time list. That's actually lower than many other single player maps and map packs. Why was that? Was it the case that it just wasn't marketed correctly? Were the themes and environments too bland? Was the map pack just not that good? I don't know. I guess it doesn't bother me too much. As of rewriting this part of the video in November 2023, Stalwart XT has a 5-star rating and good comments with some understandable feedback. It is also on runthinkshootlive.com, and it has 4 Play It Now ratings and 2 Play It Later ratings, which is a huge step up from the first Black Mesa map I released. Since its release, it has felt to me that Stalwart XT has been a recent project, but as of recording this video, it has been well over 4 years since we created and released it. Exactly a year after the development of Stalwart XT, I made a spiritual successor in the form of a level I created for a MapLabs mapping contest. The map was called Metaphor, and it featured a cage with citizens trapped inside who needed rescuing. At the end of the map, the player walks into the cage and retrieves a valve to open the door that gets trapped in the cage themselves by the citizens. From a literal standpoint, this doesn't make any sense, but to me, this was how I felt. The citizens were free, which represented how I'd overcome the urge to continue adding needless maps to the end of my already created levels. After 3 years of not being able to complete and release a full Black Mesa project, I was finally able to do so, with help. But now, I had become too transfixed on Stalwart XT, and was constantly longing for the summer of 2019, when things seemed so simple. But I knew if I had to move forward, I had to let it go. No more scientists trapped in cages. No more trip mine rooms. Even though it was time to move on from it, Stalwart XT marked the end of many years of me trying to find success in creating a Black Mesa map, and as far as I am concerned, I found it. From the moment I started making my first Black Mesa map in May of 2015 until Stalwart XT released in August of 2019, I created many levels. Insanity, Vengeance at Dusk, the free tank maps, the 6 flatline levels, the bridge map, the laboratory map, Stalwart XT. These are just the maps that I made significant progress on. Out of all these projects, only 2 of my maps were actually released to the public. The first, Vengeance at Dusk, was a very poorly designed map that did not contain good level design fundamentals, and the second, Stalwart XT, was part of a collaboration that was well received but still had some issues. I wonder how different my life would be if I had actually released all the other levels onto the Steam Workshop immediately after finishing them. I wonder how much quicker I would have been in developing my mapping skills. I spoke in episode 1 about how, even though the response to Vengeance at Dusk was painful to endure, I learned so much from the feedback given. I may have learned so much more if I had put Black Mesa Flatline out as it was. I may have learned some valuable lessons if I had released the bridge map as soon as I finished it. Were any of these maps any good? I have no idea. But if they weren't, I would have learned what made them bad through the feedback and improved on these things. The primary reason as to why most of these maps are not available now is because of my overambition. When I am creating a map, I don't just want to make something simple. I want to create something big and spectacular. I want my levels to amaze the people playing them. I want people to be inspired in their mapping journeys after playing my creations. Maybe I took it too far. I spoke in episode 3 about how Jamaican Dave's levels were short and simple, yet they received many positive comments and high ratings. They were not map packs with 6 or 7 levels or crazy ideas that changed the way we play Black Mesa forever, yet they inspired me in my mapping journey. I think that releasing small and simple projects is the best way to go when starting out on your mapping journey, or if you're struggling to make your dream project. Having a deadline is very important. During Stalwart XT, we had a self-imposed deadline, but the deadline meant a lot more with someone else enforcing it as well as myself. Another great thing to try if you're new to mapping or struggling to create a map is mapping challenges and contests. These contests usually take place over a short period of time and encourage you to make a level based on a theme. For me personally, this is the most effective way of motivating me to create and release maps and levels. They may limit you in the theming and time, but this means that you cannot just keep expanding the scope and adding more levels. You are forced to create something short and focused. You are usually also provided with feedback on your level, which will help you learn and grow in your level design abilities. In the time since Stalwart XT was released, I was finally able to release a deathmatch map for Black Mesa called DM Coolant. It is a creative King of the Hill style map that involves a suspended platform with a gluon gun and a rocket launcher on it that you can only reach by using Zen bounce pads. The map was hosted on a server in October of 2021, but only played by a handful of people. The multiplayer side of Black Mesa is not nearly as popular as the single player campaign. That was also the same month this series was initially written. The Black Mesa maps I had created were just sitting in my unfinished maps folder. I felt like I had wasted a lot of time making them and not releasing them, so I decided to create this series to inspire anyone who is interested in making maps and levels for any game, but also as a cautionary tale to new mappers. In 4 or 5 years from now, will you be regretting the amount of time put into creating unreleased levels? I highly encourage you to make short, simple levels and then to release them. Try collaborating with others. You may find you're able to create something truly great. Recently, I have been doing less mapping and trying other things such as game development, going outside, and continuing with creating music, which I've been doing now for about 10 years. I hope to one day return to Black Mesa once more and release a small and simple map that can be enjoyed by all who play it. I'm Dolmo, and this has been my Black Mesa mapping journey.